NBA All-Star Weekend was saved with one of the biggest blockbuster trades in the history of the NBA. Rarely do you see any All-NBA first-team player or second-team player or somebody who racks up those type of honors get moved at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline. In this case, it was DeMarcus Cousins to the New Orleans Pelicans. Of all teams. All right, so here's the actual details of the trade from David Aldridge of TNT and Hoops Rumors. The Kings get Buddy Hield, Tyreke Evans, Langston Galloway. The Pelicans 2017 first-round pick, which is going to be a likely a top 3 protected pick. And Philadelphia's 2017 second-round pick. The Pelicans get DeMarcus Cousins and Omri Caspi. Matt Barnes is going to be waived today by the Sacramento Kings to make because they need a roster spot to keep Evans, Hield, Galloway. So Barnes is out, which, by the way, those who we taught a couple of things that we discussed in general over the past year, media too, was Matt Barnes and DeMarcus Cousins on the same team. How's that going to work out? Yeah. Well, taken care of. Now they don't play. Well, Matt Barnes doesn't play for the Kings anymore, and neither does DeMarcus Cousins. Francis Maxwell, immediate reaction to DeMarcus Cousins being traded.
I just feel so bad for Sacramento Kings fans. Like, what do you?
Why can't we feel so happy for DeMarcus?
Yeah, right. I'll get to that. But first of all, like, if you're a Kings fan, what are you turning up to watch anymore? Like, what were you turning up to watch? Like, we saw them.
Tolliver.
Very true. Like, we saw a Cousins team with Rajon Rondo. What was that? 2 years ago, a year ago, when you were kind of like, they could be good. Could find a way to utilize DeMarcus, arguably the best center in the league. So on that point of view, I'm just curious. Like, if you're a Kings fan in the comments, please let me know what this means to you, because all I can think of is like death and despair for your team. Either way, great move for DeMarcus Cousins in retrospect of what now he can look to in the future. Is there some other teams there that I thought he'd be a better immediate fit, and if he wanted to get immediate success? Yeah, but it's not the trade that was on the cards. For Anthony Davis, it now just flips everything we talked about on its head. Like, we were talking about how this guy is unhappy. At points in the start of the season, he was throwing in 40-plus points, and he had no one around him to help push this team towards a decent place where he can look to his future and be like, okay, there's something here. There's something I can work on. So what the owners of the Pelicans did is what the owners of the Kings didn't do with DeMarcus Cousins, is they saw someone who was easily the life and soul of that franchise and went, you know what? If we have any sort of chance of keeping this guy and building this team to be a respectable team, we need to build around him, and we need to bring someone in. And Anthony Davis called it out. He's like, I need a fucking center. Get me a center so that someone, as we mentioned, can go in on the clip that we talked about, do some of like so that Anthony Davis doesn't have to waste some of his energy doing what I would call the donkey work. That doesn't mean that DeMarcus Cousins is going to go in there and just do the donkey work. He's a phenomenal player.
But he's a bruiser.
But it gives so much more room for Anthony Davis to work off of that and use his energy doing what he's best at. And now, this team, add another couple of pieces. This is a team that's going to be a real competitive team if you're talking about things moving the way they should go.
Yes, if it works out the way they want this to work out, in the Pelicans' favor. So for one, they're going to have some room this offseason to sign players. Now, keep in mind a couple things. One, Anthony Davis, in terms of the Pelicans, has one of the best contracts in the NBA. Not for Anthony Davis, because he's going to be making about $67 million less than he could have been if he was a free agent this year, right? He signed 2 years ago a 5-year, $127 million extension. To put that in perspective, his $28-ish million by the time he gets to that 5th year will still be about $14 million less, or $42 million a year, that DeMarcus Cousins will be signing for this offseason. Yeah. Because he's an unrestricted free agent. Next offseason, he's an unrestricted free agent in 2018, 2019. But he can get that extension as of this summer. Yep. So it's going to depend on the draft and who else they can lure down to Sacramento. So what's their long game here? Well, there's 3 point guards. And given what happened with Kevin Durant, given what just happened with DeMarcus Cousins, given what's happened with players in the past, this idea of, but he loves the city. But he just said to the media the other day that he wants to stay and say, it's not about that. This is a business. So at the trade deadline, it's not what the player wants. It's what the team really wants and what the team can do for the players at hand. And in the offseason, it's a little bit more about what the player wants, because he has some freedom to at least move around and sign where he would be. Why do I say that? Stephen Curry, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, all free agents this summer. Now, is Steph Curry going to re-sign with the Warriors? Most likely. Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry, 2 different stories.
Chris Paul, man.
Is it enough to get Chris Paul to come back to New Orleans? Yeah. Or is it enough to get someone like Kyle Lowry to come to Sacramento? Now, that would just be someone to handle the ball. Nothing against Drew Holiday, but if they can sign an elite point guard in such a in such a deep point guard league, and even more importantly, it's shooters. They need 3 guys they need 3 Chris Middletons. They need 3 guys who can shoot the ball and not cost $42 million in the offseason.
Yeah.
It also has some other fun aspects to this. So let's get into at least the 2 tweets that have to do with the trade itself before we get to the fun ones, right? The Nuggets got more first-round picks for Timothy Mozgov than the Kings got for DeMarcus Cousins. I'm not going to sit here and completely just take a steaming hot crap on the Kings and the reason I don't want to do that, because obviously this is a bad trade, but I'm not going to sit here like Stephen A. Smith and be like, it's the worst trade in the history of NBA. For once, it's the most lopsided trade in the history of basketball. It might be, or they might make one good draft decision, get lucky and sign a superstar that's better than DeMarcus Cousins. And why do I say that? The next tweet. Because this is how good the Kings were with DeMarcus Cousins. 24, 22, 28, 28, 29. That's the number of wins with Cousins. They never cracked 35 wins in a season. And they had a team that should have won 41 games, even in the Western Conference.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what do you think about the Pelicans and how they're going to work with this. All right, so the article that I was looking at earlier today on Fox, and there was one on Deadspin, it was a good one. And it was my thought process in the article. I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, but the era of playing 2 big men and working around it, well, not 5-10 years ago now. We're in an area where your backcourt will win you championships, and you need to have players that are going to be versatile. You need to have scorers at the point guard position also. So just because you might have a 6'11" and a 6'10" guy in the paint, when you're playing the Golden State Warriors, what are you still going to do to protect yourself from being getting rained upon from outside the three-point area? So what I'm thinking about is, as you mentioned, they add someone in that can eventually push them forward, but how as a system, I'm asking you this, how as a system are they going to get the best out of these 2 players? Because, technically both of them, on paper, you'd think, they're going to start to take up each other's space. I mean, they're big men, but then people in articles are like, don't be so silly. Like, Anthony Davis is a different breed of a big man. He is so versatile. He can move outside of his comfort zone. So how do you see them working?
So there's a couple things that go into this. For one, Anthony Davis is now going to play like a 3.5 role. I mean that as in like you're going to start seeing almost more small forward spacing of the floor with Anthony. First of all, this is a guy who played point guard all through high school. He has possibly the top 3 in terms of handles for like anybody over 6'10".
Yeah.
Right. Kevin Durant's up there too because he's lying. He's 7 feet tall. We don't believe anything he's saying. I don't care what he's listed as. The guy's 7 feet tall. DeMarcus Cousins will be your bruiser in the paint. He's going to possibly go back to being the guy who's going to be on the block, while Anthony Davis has to step a little bit outside more.
Yeah.
First of all, both can shoot from the mid-range. Both can shoot threes.
Yeah.
Let's keep that in mind. So it's not like these guys are Jahlil Okafor and actually can't do anything offensively outside of 2 feet, outside of the restricted area. And unlike DeAndre Jordan, who's a defensive wizard at the rim, and of course leading the league in dunks, it's not like these are 2 players who have to sit in the restricted area. They can move. I think you're looking at a heat map, probably showing where they move.
It's really interesting as you're saying that, because
look at Davis's.
If I was thinking these 2, having watched them this season, we'll throw up the heat map that I was referencing, you'd think that Anthony Davis would be the one to come outside a little bit, come outside the paint. But as they pointed out in this article, it kind of fits together like a puzzle. Where DeMarcus Cousins is least effective is where Anthony Davis loves the ball. That mid-range jumper you mentioned, in and around the paint. Both of them like to take it to the hoop. We know that. They can jam like no other. But DeMarcus Cousins likes to shoot the 3-ball, and he consistently will do it, especially with the Kings. And he's a good 3-point shooter considering his size and stature. So you might see a little bit of versatility. You would think that Anthony Davis is going to be the one to pull outside a little bit more and allow Cousins to be in, mixing it, being more physical. But that's just going to be something you're going to have, other teams are going to have to plan and research around, because having to deal with one of these guys, even if their team around them isn't as good as they should be, it's still a task. It's still a hard thing to do. So having to worry about both of them, if they're both interchanging and one's peeling off and the other one's causing some problems in the paint, they're going to have other teams worried. That's the only thing that I can say. I'm not saying the Pelicans are going to put together a run and suddenly be phenomenal, but they're going to have other teams worried now.
Well, of course. And look at first of all, just think about an opposing coach and how you have to game plan for the fact that when they were going into play the Kings or the Pelicans, it was still part of the process, if you Joel Embiid it. It was part of the process that you had to find a way to X out Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah. Because when you took them out of the game, essentially, You're playing one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league, with the spare parts they had left. Now you can't take out both of them.
Yep.
One of them will be able to, or should be able to, over the course of a couple games, figure this out and average 27 and 10. Again, it's not since like the Shaq have we seen a player average 27 and 10. They make up all the statistics-wise. They make up all the guys who are putting up the over 25 points per game, over 10 rebounds. The numbers are all there. This is not going to click in the first week. It's not going to click in the second week. It's going to take a month of basketball before you really see them filling that space according to those heat maps. And Jrue Holiday's got his work cut out for him. Just take one step up. Why do we say this? Because you're about to enter a very interesting playoff landscape where they're 2.5 games out of the 8th seed. And the one thing, now, no, the Pelicans will not beat the Warriors if they play them at the 1 and they're the 8. What they will do is possibly take a game or two on their home court because the Warriors cannot defend against two supremely athletic all-NBA first, second, third team players.
Well, especially this year's Warriors who traded out
the one guy they needed
to be able to defend this. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a physical battle, and they're going to use that to their advantage. You've got 6'7" Draymond Green, who they already squeeze a lot of minutes out, and they're having to get him in there consistently, roughing it against two big guys. It'll be a tough one to see. I'll ask a lot more questions of Steve Kerr if that is to be the game.
We have fun ones, though, Francis.
All right, hit me with the fun ones.
Wikipedia has an update. Let's see. The New Orleans Pelicans are a bunch of savages who completely robbed the Sacramento Kings of boogieing in exchange for a bag of chips. They are officially being investigated by the NBA for thievery. Team that plays their home games at the Smoothie King Center, formerly known as the New Orleans Arena. Next was, if you've watched the show Community, this is Childish Gambino. This is pretty much what the Kings players are coming back from the All-Star break. Just straight up madness. NBA 2K would not accept this trade. You know how like in FIFA and 2K and all these games, DeMarcus Cousins is someone we consider untouchable. The only way I accept a trade from him is if we were blown away, and this one doesn't do that. Like, that's something, man. It's NBA 2K. You could trade Kyrie Irving for Jrue Holiday straight up in that game as long as you throw in a pick, and they wouldn't do that trade. And I don't think anybody did it better than the New Orleans Pelicans official Twitter account for this.
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Savage.
That's good.
Quick question. Most savage Twitter account, the Pelicans or Wendy's?
Have you seen the Kings too? The Kings are trolling people too. Well, I mean, now they have nothing else to do.
I was going to say.
What is Wendy's? Wendy's will do.
Wendy's is there's just a full playlist of a video where they're responding to people. Someone's like, "Hey, Wendy's, what's your favorite thing about McDonald's?" And they're like, "The exit."
I like the one where it's, "What do I order at McDonald's? An Uber to Wendy's."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the best thing about In-N-Out? The out.
So you saw like the NBA, we'll leave it on this one, the NBA's memo to like all the teams were like to stop trolling each other pretty much. They were like you have to do it in a nice way. Because I guess it was getting out of hand.
I love the banter back and forth. The banter.
Banter?
Talking about banter.
Banter.
Kings fans, what have you got in the comments? Or what have you got on Twitter? Francis_Maxwell, Jason Rubin 91. We'll see you again. TYT Sports.